Hello Rover fans, I'm going to switch my focus back onto the Rover 200 Turbo. I think I've done one or two videos maybe on this. Basically I want to start excavating in and around this area, work out exactly how much metal needs to come out and start devising a method of repair. One thing that has slowed me down a little bit is I don't have the locking wheel nut key for this car. Or is it that one? I think two of the others are still fitted. One of them thankfully has been removed. I was using a impact tool to try and remove it. This is like what the AA and RAC use for getting locking wheel nuts off, and I borrowed it from work. And I've had in the past about a 50% success rate with it. It hasn't worked this time, but essentially that's an impact driver. So as you hit it with the hammer, it shocks it and also unscrews and rotates. And to grip onto the wheel nuts themselves, you get lots of different types of fitting. These ones are for wheel nuts like you get on the BMWs, or I think Magard also use that same sort of technique. That is sacrificial and it just deforms into the internal surfaces of the wheel nut, and then you should be able to get it out. So you've got a few of them for being sacrificial, and then the other ones are tools with sharp points, or they originally were sharp points. They've rounded it off because I've used it so much, but basically the wheel nut that's on the car is made of cheese, and it's just, whoops, I nearly fell over. It's just rounding off rather than cutting in. I don't know whether you can see that. So what I'm going to do is what almost always works, is use my MIG welder. That's one I did a while ago. That was actually off my Vivaro van, or maybe my BMW, I can't remember, but that's a crank pulley bolt off a Toyota MR2. Thank you very much Richard for that, because it was a good one. And then I've got a collection of old BMW wheel bolts, and they're ideal because they're good metal, and because it's, I think it's that M12 by 1.5, you can actually get in there with the welder and actually get quite a lot of heat in there. So I'm going to clean that up with the wire drill, clean up the wheel a bit as well. I don't care about this wheel. I will, if I use these wheels, and I'm not sure I will, then I'll refurbish them anyway, but all the lacquers come off and stuff, so I don't care about melting it or burning it. I might put a bit of tape across the centre badge because I don't want to damage that. Right, I'm just going to have a go at snotting this on there. I've turned the welder up pretty much as high as it will go, and it's been a while since I've used it on these settings, so it might spit and fart around quite a lot because I may not have got the gas right. So I'll do this. I've already set up somewhere a socket and a bar the right sort of size, because I find with these you want to start undoing it, or trying to undo it, not immediately after you've finished welding, but certainly don't wait till it's cooled down, because the weld can be a bit brittle. So and also the nut is on the outside of that stud, so it's sort of expanded, and it should come off pretty well when it's still warm. So we shall have a go. Oh yeah, it helps if you put your earth on. I'll put it on that one so hopefully you can see it a bit better. So I've got a big tack there. Can you see? I don't know. But anyway, there's what I hope is a nice strong tack in there. And then I'm gonna blast the rest of it. I'll start from the top down, go around either side, and hopefully that whirlpool will sink in. There we go. Now, you wouldn't think that that would work that easy, and before today I've been walloping the hell out of that thing. I've been smashing the wrong size sockets onto it as well. Like, look at the amount of abuse that's had, and it came out straight away with the MIG welder. So that's one down. Same process. I'm just going to do the other ones that I couldn't shift previously. You can actually see the bolt is starting to like want to tear out, to torque out almost. It's like it's going to shear here, so I'm going to weld it a little bit more up the stem, give it a bit more strength. Whoops. That is one hell of a chunk of weld on there now. So I'd be surprised if that doesn't want to come off. And it's still just wanting to torque the head off. You can see that bit moving relative to that bit, so I'm going to wait for it to cool down a little bit more. No, I think it's just going to shear. More weld needed. I don't think I've ever had one this stubborn. Certainly not a nut. I've had bolts be difficult. The nuts usually come off. I'm just hoping that will shock it a bit as well. Oh, it smells lovely. Jeez, it's wet. That is well on there. I don't know whether this is going to work even. I might have to fracture it off, cut it back, and then start all over again right at the root. Oh, here we go. Done. What a pain, eh? I don't have very good access to the other side of the car, so I won't bother doing the third one at this stage. What I might do is go around and put some WD-40 on it ahead of the welding ceremony. That's quite a slug of weld, and in there it's not even corroded. It's just, I guess it must have been done up very, 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 very tight. Right, good. Now I can jack it up and get that rear wheel off. It's starting to become clear that these wheels haven't been on in a very long time. The wheel nuts are out, but that thing has welded itself on there. So I'm going to try and bash it off with a big chunk of wood. Well, that was a bit of an anticlimax, but a good anticlimax. By the way, the whole reason I'm doing this is so that I can get the arch liner out and chop it up, or chop the body up without burning a hole, melting something, and because I want to have a good look around inside, because it's this area and this dent that are of key concern, and I want to inspect the retaining panel, or like the closing panel behind there, because apparently that is a common rot spot on these. I absolutely did not expect to find this. I'd heard horror stories about this area here, and the fact that this whole closing panel, once the arch liner is off, is basically not there. That is filled out there, and yes, I don't know what's on the back side yet, but that is really pretty damn good in my opinion. And what's very surprising is, given that this car was built in 1997, and it's got a plastic arch liner in there, there's zero rust, which is quite a surprise really. And I've only just had a cursory glance up under here. Look, that's a frilly unprotected piece of steel. We've got a bit there. These are the longitudinal chassis rails with the like deliberately creased crash cell there. Underside of that thing, all okay, a little bit of frilliness on here. There might be a bit of grot up there above the exhaust. Where is it? Over there. But really, the floor pan looks great. This being an IS, has the big chunky rear anti-roll bar. That is not Rover. Don't know who did that, but obviously that lashed up, bodged on exhaust is not clearing the rear axle properly. So we can fix that. But I'm really happy because this thing is basically, it's still got cavity wax on it under here. That is brilliant. When really the only thing I have of like experience of this sort of generation of cars is BMWs, because I had loads of E36s, lots of E30s, and they would rot out mental at the back, particularly the E36s where the battery tray was. So all of this I know is probably through lack of paint when it was repaired, and that's really what I want to investigate. But the rest of the car looks really good. So I'm going to go and get my strip and clean wheel and clean off around this wheel arch lip see how bad it really is. And I think I'm also going to take the rear bumper off and have a little bit more of a poke around in the back there. Right, again, I know I'm bleating on about this, but that car, there is absolutely zero rust on the outer face of this. And that's the rear apron, which gets annihilated most of the time, particularly this rear sort of frilly edge. Cars like Mondeos, where I've seen where the rear bumper comes under like this, just traps water and they rot out. There's nothing there, so this is really quite a nice surprise. I was told, because I'm still learning a bit about these 200s and 25s and MGZRs, but I was told that, oh shit, yeah, cut myself somewhere along the way. I was told that they screwed these together a lot better than the later cars, I think, because at the time they were really trying to break away from Honda and build a quality product. And that seems to be the case under here. I've never taken apart a 25 or a ZR, but I presume, well, I don't know, you can tell me whether they're any better or worse. That's the... Are you on? You are recording, right, good. Yeah, that's the strip and clean disc I'm using. A bit more of a walk around tour now that I've cleaned some of that paint off. You can see that we've got rust on the actual outer skin, and that flange has gone anyway, so all that's gonna have to come off. Then we've got this dented area along here. Really, that's quite annoying. I'm not very good at panel work itself. I mean actually like repairing and pulling out dents. I'm okay at swapping them, but pulling that out, it really wants a pro. Down here, it's really only that last flange, which is good. That, as I said previously, it's really nice. It's just surface crud. Then as we come underneath, what's kind of surprising is how good that rear end is. That's already lovely, but then as we come forward, we've got an obvious hole, and that is where the rear skin had been repaired and joined, so that all wants to come out. And then we've got more suspect holes there and down the front. So I'm not going to bother blunting off my discs any longer. It's time to actually chop metal out, and before I do the choppage, I'm going to go and get my repair panels and work out exactly what I've got and where I can put it. Here is my collection of repair panels. These ones I think I've introduced previously. That's the closing panel, which I don't think I'm actually going to need, but once I've chopped the sill off, I can have a better look at the back side of it and make an assessment as to whether I want to chop that up, put that in. The two sill sections, this one has the return on it, like that. This one is just a unflanged generic section sill, so I can use that at the front. Then I've got two rear arch sections. That silver one is the first one I bought. Both are for 5-door cars, not 3 doors. I don't think you can actually get a 3-door one. This one stops where it would come down to the sill area, and it stops where it would join the structure behind the rear bumper. This one is the same area of the car, but includes all the way down to the sill, right up around the fuel filler, and then in under the back. So that was my the second one I bought off Facebook Marketplace. Unfortunately, the guy who posted it, he had more faith in couriers than I do, and all he'd done is wrapped it up in a plastic bag and put some bubble wrap around it. So of course, in the back of a van or on the conveyors or whatever, the courier has crushed it and fucked it, which is, I mean, still trying not to swear, damaged it. It's got quite a big crease in it, and really annoyingly, it's right in a crucial area. And that body line should be quite defined, and we've kind of lost it now. So that's a bit of a bummer. My intention is still to use that one, but I might have to try and beat that out somehow, and I'm not great at that sort of stuff, so yeah, I might have a go. I think I still will use that panel, and I'm gonna now go and get the grinder and chop that bit of the car out and start devising a cunning plan. I'm kind of just playing around at the moment before I chop anything, because it suddenly occurred to me that I can possibly pull some of this out. I've marked where there are clear dents in it, and basically it looks like a car has driven into the side of this and its bumper has caught and pushed in all the way along here to here. Don't know whether it's going to show up, probably not. And there's another depression in here where it's kind of pushed this wing in. You can see the scrape marks. That, I think, was a brush, and it's kind of deflected away and then come out, but it's not until it's got to that hard edge that it's actually creased it in and left it permanently low. Some of this will come out as soon as I put a saw through there. This will probably go boing and come back out. That probably won't, particularly that bit, because you've got a nasty crush in there, which is even, actually no, it hasn't. I thought it would have dented the door shut. It hasn't. That was just already there. But yeah, I've got a dent here, so I'm going to experiment and see whether I can pull some of this out through those holes, and whether I can get to the back side of that from inside the car. Right, the GoPro battery has died because it is very cold. I don't know how much of it got recorded actually. Basically, I've been using the 400 bonnet stay, which conveniently fits through that hole, and then you can wangle it around to either use it as a hook or as a smoothie rolly thing. Technical term again, you can thank me later. And what I've done is I've just pulled out quite a lot of where there was quite a sharp crease. When you run your hands over it, it feels goddamn awful now, so maybe I shouldn't have bothered, but anyway, it was fun learning, and now you know how not to do it. Leave it to the pros. That's not going to come out without some serious boshing. I'm going to have a look inside the car now and see what access is like from behind. Perhaps I should have done that to start with, because with a nice uniform paint colour on the inside, I might have actually been able to see where the dent was better, but never mind. We are now inside the car, and I've peeled that trim panel back to find, ta-da! It's not one of my happy ta-da moments. This is a, oh, look at that type of moment. Genuine Rover rear wing was put on the car, which is kind of interesting. Down there we've got a big sound deadening like insulator thing, so that will need to come out before I need to do any choppage. I can't actually see the dent any better from the backside than I could on the front, but what is good is now I've got access to where the crease is higher up, so I might be able to try and push that out. So next step, get this trim out of the way properly, get that thing out and see if I can see any more rust in the bottom of the door or rear wing. Trim panel out of the way and the foamy thing out of the way. Now we can see right down into the bottom. That's the back side of that bit I was trying to pull and poke out earlier, which is really annoying. I should have just come in here first. I just didn't think about it. I didn't think I'd have such great access. I mean, there's literally nothing there. You can see, or I can see, and I'm trying to show you the back side of that closing panel, which I didn't think I'd need to replace, and I still don't think I do, because that's just surface rust. And now I've got great access. I can get in there with the die grinder and just clean it all off. And then right in the bottom we've got some rust forming, but I don't think it's that bad. Still loads of cavity wax toshed around in here, which is nice to see. And look, there's even a little Rover hologrammy thing there. Is it? Nice. So I'm going to go and see if I can massage a few more bits of this dent out, particularly at that leading corner where we've got quite a sharp crease on the bottom of the body line. I probably should have been doing a before and after, but you see that where is it? That denty bit there. I've been pushing from the inside with my bendy screwdriver. I've actually already reduced the size of that quite a lot, so I'm just going to keep going and see if I can push it all out. Well, it's certainly not artwork, but that's come out a bit. That feels better to the hand, although it looks shocking. That bit down there is still in, but I'm not going to do any more with it. That bit up there I did push out slightly, but it still won't all come out. I'm going to go and get the grinder now and start chopping off the very edge of the arch lip. You might have noticed I've put some scribe lines in. I don't really think I need them, because hopefully the inner wing isn't going to change shape, but I've just put these on as reference markers so I know from that across there the distance in millimeters to the actual arch lip, so when it comes to repositioning the new arch I know, well, basically whether I've really screwed it up. Just run the saw all the way around the arch lip. As soon as I did, that bit's gone in and that bit's popped out. So there's obviously some fairly interesting distortion going on in this wing. That didn't move very much at all, and now I'm just going to start drilling out, chopping and getting that flange off altogether. It's really quite therapeutic doing this. That's the inner wheel arch. Fortunately there's no nasty grot there, that's all surface stuff. I think this car has been caught just before this bit could have got quite problematic. And just so I can see the plug welds or spot welds, I'm going to fold this wheel arch lip down, trying not to distort that or the inner. The inner feels really chunky, like it might be 1.5 or 1.2 mil thick, so I don't think that's going to move, which is good. So all of these numbers, complete waste of time. Time for another one of James's random car related observations. This rear skin, this rear wing has been replaced by a professional body shop, and they've done well, they've remade the welds using a spot welder, but they haven't really put that many in. So you got one up there and one down here and absolutely nothing in between, and it's the same all the way around. So I'm not even having to chop through these, I'm just able to break them with the pliers. The other thing is they're hardly made at all. I mean, they're barely hanging on there, and this is why I don't bother using a spot welder. I did have one, but I just didn't trust it, because any time you were trying to weld two pieces of metal together that weren't identical thicknesses, it just didn't work. Mine was only like a 600 quid, relatively cheapy one. But I mean, there's no way that you could do that with one of the MIG welder plug welds. These are just barely on there. So yeah, when I was restoring the police car, I don't know whether any of you are watching this from Retro Rides, I actually made up some test pieces. So I had an old scuttle panel flange, which had factory spot welds in it. I had a section of 2 pieces of 1mm steel that I spot welded using my spot weld machine with the correct jaws, correct pressure, everything going for it. And then I did another strip where I used plug welding with a MIG welder. And by far and away the strongest was the plug welding with a MIG welder. And you might say, oh well, yeah, it's too strong. If you crash your car, it won't break up as it should do. But as long as you get the spot weld intervals right, it shouldn't matter. It's not like you're seam welding the whole panel together. So yeah, unless you're a professional body shop and you've got all the right jaws and all the rest of it, I'm just sticking to plug welding stuff together. It just seems to work better. I mean, if that had been on properly, there's no way you could do that. I haven't actually done any proper sawing of the spot welds. I cut some slots in the underside, but that's it. All of that's come off just with a pair of pliers. So yeah, as I said, an observation, nothing more. That's where that dent is. It has actually buckled the inner sill, oh sorry, inner wing, which is why that was wanting to always pull down onto it. Now that's all out, you've got a bit of a crease there still, but it's a lot better. By the time I've ruined it by trying to weld a new panel on and heat distorted it, Kieran, Mike and Dave are going to have fun welding, or sorry, filling it in anyway. Whoops, I'll do my best, lads. More general poking and playing. That is where that dent was that I couldn't get to. And I can bend all of that out now. Probably overbent it again, but that's no big deal. I still need to chop the last bit off at the bottom because there's some crap collected in there. I might even come out a bit further and put like a 2-inch strip all the way down. And then I'm going to make some fairly large scale cuts under the front just to take a look at what's going on. I don't want to chop out too much because I don't want to lose any strength. This car doesn't really rely on this outer surface of the skin for strength. It's all on this box section which runs inside, so I shouldn't need to weld any braces in. Just been chopping away exploratory cuts. This is the bit where the rear wing would have come down and then had been joined onto the car. And if you saw the previous videos, you'll remember, oh, door's locked again annoyingly, but yeah, we had rust at the sill there, which first alarmed me to what was going on with this car. And following that line down, it's all dressed lovely and smooth, and then that bit was in there whole, so I've chopped that whole bit out. And on the back side, you can see it's really rather poorly, but they haven't like joggled the edges or overlapped it. They've just butt welded it and then they've lynched it smooth. So actually, in terms of strength, there's basically nothing there other than filler on the top side, and it's just I think I was trying to explain why I was going about some of the repairs I was doing on the other cars the way I was, and why I was chuffed that I've now got that joggling tool. Because if you butt weld it and then you grind it smooth, you don't really know what's on the back side. You can only see the nice shiny bit on the top surface. When you look, it's covered in like MIG wire. Some of it's just rusted away, but it's got MIG wire, and then there were other bits where it must have been very thin because it just rotted out straight away. It's gone straight through. So that's why I'm not a big fan of doing butt welds on thin body metal. It's fine if you can get to both sides because you can like weld up one side and make it look pretty. Sorry, I dropped the phone. Yeah, so you can grind it flat one side and then you can flip it over, sort out all the back side, grind that smooth, and you have like a nice piece of metal. It's still probably not great because the metal like material changes from where you've welded it to the bits that were original flat homogeneous steel stamped into a shape. But yeah, when I go back to repair this lot, I'll try and do overlap welds, lap welds, or joggled patches, just to make sure that that strength is in there after I've ground it all smooth. Up here you can see that big chunky stiffener inside. It's perfect. So I still haven't worked out how much of this I'm going to chop off. I think I will come back and take that wing off and make a proper assessment. It might be that I go back and buy another sill section off of oh, I can't remember his name now, but yeah, I might go and buy another section, and then I can do the sill in one whole length, or the outer skin of the sill in one whole length. Anyway, I'm super cold now. I've been sat on this floor for a while, so I'm going to go inside.